The night before her wedding, the Royal Palm Hotel buzzed with excitement. In Suite 1205, Angela Mensah stood before the mirror, her dark eyes fixed on her reflection. Tomorrow, she would marry Ernest Boateng, one of the country's most successful bankers. Everything was ready. Her white dress spread across the king-size bed, the diamond ring waiting in its blue velvet box, and hundreds of guests set to attend what people called the wedding of the year. At 6:45 p.m., the hotel's security cameras showed Angela walking down the hallway to the ice machine. She wore a simple black dress, her high heels clicking against the marble floor. She smiled at a passing guest. She never returned to her room. At 8:30 p.m., her mother called the suite. No answer. At 9:15 p.m., her sister came knocking. Silence. Angela, the 32-year-old lawyer, known for winning impossible cases and breaking glass ceilings at her firm, had disappeared without a trace. Her latest text message, sent to her sister Martha at 6:43 p.m. the night before, simply read, "Everything is ready for tomorrow. Can't wait." By 10 p.m., Ernest stood in the empty suite, his world crumbling. The dress hadn't been touched. The ring sat untouched. Angela's phone lay on the bedside table, its screen dark. "She was just here," he kept saying to the police. "We talked on the phone just hours ago. She was happy. She was excited." But the hotel staff had seen nothing. The security cameras showed no one entering or leaving her room after she went for ice. It was as if Angela had vanished into thin air. In the lobby, guests whispered. Some said she got cold feet. Others wondered if someone had taken her. The newspapers would call it the case of the vanishing bride. Ernest sat in the suite all night, staring at the wedding dress. His phone kept ringing. Guests, family, friends, all asking the same question. Where is Angela? Ernest's mind raced with possibilities, each worse than the last. Had Angela changed her mind about marrying him? But she'd been so excited, so involved in every detail of their wedding. Had someone taken her? But how? And why? And why were there no signs of struggle, no evidence of force? But there was something else, something that made his stomach turn. On the desk, he found a note in Angela's handwriting. Just 3 words. "I'm so sorry." As the sun rose over Accra the next morning, hundreds of guests arrived at the church to find police cars instead of wedding cars. The flowers wilted in the heat. The cake sat untouched in the kitchen. By noon, the news of Angela's disappearance had spread across Accra like wildfire. The Daily Graphic's bold headline screamed, "Runaway bride, top lawyer vanishes before wedding." And somewhere in the city, a beautiful bride had disappeared, leaving behind a perfect life, a heartbroken man, and a mystery that would shake Accra's high society to its core. The search for Angela Mensah was about to begin, but no one, not even Ernest, was ready for the truth that would come with finding her. Some secrets, after all, are better left buried. Detective Martha Sapong stood in room 1205 of the Royal Palm Hotel, her eyes scanning every corner. 3 days had passed since Angela Mensah vanished. The wedding dress still lay on the bed, now covered in police fingerprint dust. "Tell me again, Mr. Boateng," Martha said, watching Ernest pace the room. "When was the last time you spoke to her?" "At 4 in the afternoon," Ernest said, his voice rough from lack of sleep. She was laughing about her mother fussing over the flowers. She sounded normal, happy. He stopped at the window, staring at the city below. "Everyone's saying she ran away, but they don't know her like I do." Martha's phone buzzed. Another tweet was going viral. Breaking. Sources say bride-to-be spotted at Kotoka Airport. Night of disappearance. #runaway bride. These rumors are killing me, Ernest said, his hands shaking as he checked his own phone. Now they're saying I have a dark past, that I scared her away. Me. I've loved her for 3 years. Detective Martha walked to the bathroom, noting the unused toothbrush, the full bottle of perfume. Mr. Boateng, did you know Angela took out 500,000 cedis from her account on Tuesday? Ernest's head snapped up. What? No, that's impossible. It's not. Martha pulled out her notebook. And there's more. A one-way ticket to Dubai was booked in her name. Flight was for midnight, the night she disappeared. The color drained from Ernest's face. She couldn't. The ticket was never used, Martha added, watching his reaction. But someone bought it using her credit card. Outside the hotel, reporters camped out with cameras. Social media was on fire with theories. Everyone had an opinion. She found out about his secret family. She was kidnapped by rivals. It's all a publicity stunt. But Martha ignored the noise. Instead, she focused on the small details. The missing ice bucket that was never found. The hallway camera that went dark for exactly 3 minutes that night. And the strange call that came to the front desk at 7 p.m., asking for extra towels, in a voice that didn't sound like Angela's. Mr. Boateng, Martha said finally, I need you to be honest with me. Is there anyone who would want to hurt Angela? Anyone who might have had a reason to make her disappear? Ernest opened his mouth to say no, but stopped. Something flashed across his face. Doubt, fear, before he looked away. There might be someone, he said quietly, but I pray to God I'm wrong. As the sun set over Accra, Detective Martha Sarpong left the Royal Palm Hotel with more questions than answers. In her car, she looked at the last photo of Angela from the security camera, smiling, alive, walking toward the ice machine. What happened in those 3 missing minutes? Where was the ice bucket? And most importantly, who was Ernest thinking of when his face showed that flash of fear? The search for Angela Mensah was just beginning, but Detective Martha had a feeling this case would lead her down some very dark paths. And somewhere in Accra, a missing bride held secrets that could destroy more than just a wedding. 5 days after Angela disappeared, Ernest sat in his dark office, staring at his computer screen. It was 3 a.m., and the email had just arrived. From Angela Mensah. Time, 6:45 p.m., 5 days ago. Subject, I'm sorry. Ernest, I love you, but I don't think we were meant to last. Please don't come looking for me. Angela. His coffee cup slipped from his hand, spilling across his desk. His heart pounded as he read the words again and again. Something wasn't right. With shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and called Detective Martha. She answered on the first ring. She never calls me Ernest, he said, without saying hello. Never. Not once in 3 years. What do you mean? Martha's voice was sharp, alert despite the late hour. This email, it's supposed to be from her, but she always calls me babe. Always. Even when she's mad at me. His voice cracked. Someone else wrote this. Someone who doesn't know us. Martha was quiet for a moment. Forward me the email. I'm coming over. 30 minutes later, they sat in his office. Martha read the email several times while Ernest paced. Look at the timestamp, Martha said. 6:45 p.m. That's exactly when she went to get ice. But her phone was in her room, Ernest said. "We found it there." "Yes." Martha leaned forward. "So how did she send an email?" They looked at each other as the truth sank in. Someone else had access to Angela's email. Someone who didn't know her well enough to know she never called Ernest by his first name. "There's something else," Martha said, pointing at the screen. "Look at how it's signed. Just Angela. Does she usually sign her emails like that?" Ernest shook his head. "Number. She always writes Love Angie. That's what everyone calls her." "Angie." Martha pulled out her notebook. "So we have 3 things wrong. She didn't call you babe. She sent an email when her phone was in her room, and she signed it wrong." "Someone took her," Ernest whispered. "They took her, and they're trying to make it look like she ran away." Just then, Ernest's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop looking. She's gone. Let her go." Martha grabbed the phone. "Can you trace this?" Ernest asked. "We'll try." She looked at him hard. "But whoever has her knows you well enough to have your number. Think, Ernest. Who would want to hurt you both?" Ernest sank into his chair, his mind racing through faces, names, memories. Then he remembered something. A conversation he'd overheard between Angela and someone on the phone just a week ago. "You can't tell him," she had said. "Promise me you won't tell him." Tell him what? As the sun began to rise over Accra, Ernest realized that maybe he hadn't known Angela as well as he thought, and maybe that's exactly why she was gone. The fake email wasn't just a message. It was a warning. And somewhere in the city, someone was watching, waiting to see if they would understand what it meant before it was too late. The police station buzzed with activity when Sandra Addo walked in. She wore a red designer dress and dark sunglasses, turning heads as she walked straight to Detective Martha's desk. "I need to talk about Angela," she said, removing her sunglasses. "I'm her best friend." Martha looked up sharply. "Best friend? She never mentioned you." "No," Sandra smiled sadly. "She wouldn't have. We kept our friendship quiet." Within minutes, Ernest rushed to the station. His face went pale when he saw Sandra. "You," he said. "You're the woman from the cafe." Sandra nodded. "You saw us having coffee last month. Angela begged you not to ask questions. Now you know why." Martha watched them both carefully. "Sandra, why are you here now?" Sandra's hands shook as she reached into her purse. She pulled out a phone. Not Angela's missing one, but another. "She kept this secret phone," Sandra said, "for emergencies. 3 days before she disappeared, she called me. She was crying." Sandra paused, looking directly at Ernest. She said she found something that scared her badly. "What did she find?" Martha asked. "She wouldn't tell me, but she made me promise something." Sandra's voice dropped. She said, "If anything happens to me, don't believe it was an accident." The room went quiet. Ernest sat down hard in a nearby chair. Just then, Officer Mensah burst in. "Detective, we found something. Angela's credit card was used last week at a hotel. She met someone there." "Who?" Martha demanded. "Nathaniel Kumi," the officer read from his notes. "Her ex-boyfriend." Ernest jumped up. "Nat? She met Nat?" Sandra nodded slowly. "Yes, she needed something from him. Something about old files from when they worked at the same law firm." Martha grabbed her keys. "Where can we find this Nat?" "He has an office downtown," Ernest said. "But why would she go to him? They broke up years ago." "Maybe," Martha said, because he knew something you didn't. At Nat's office, they found him angry and unwilling to talk. He was tall, good-looking, with cold eyes that never left Ernest's face. "Yeah, I saw her," Nat said. "She wanted old case files, that's all." "Which files?" Martha pressed. "Can't say. Lawyer-client stuff." Nat smirked. "But I will say this. She was scared, really scared. And maybe she had good reason to be." As they left his office, Sandra grabbed Martha's arm. "There's one more thing," she whispered. "The night before she disappeared, Angela sent me a photo. Just numbers. Look." She showed her phone. 23-9-17-KB. "What does it mean?" Martha asked. "I don't know," Sandra said. "But she wrote under it, 'If this is true, everything changes.'" Back at the station, Martha spread out everything they knew. A secret friendship with Sandra. A hidden meeting with Nat. A mysterious code. A burner phone. And a bride who knew something worth disappearing for. What was Angela trying to tell us? Martha wondered aloud. But as she looked at her notes, she didn't notice Sandra typing quickly on her phone. "They're asking questions. What should I do next?" The reply came instantly. "Keep playing your part. Everything is going according to plan." Detective Martha sat at her desk late one night, going through Angela's bank records for the 100th time. Something caught her eye. A payment to Golden Life Insurance, made just 1 month before the wedding. Her heart started racing as she dug deeper. By morning, she had the full policy in her hands. $2 million. All of it would go to Ernest if Angela died. "Did you know about this?" she asked Ernest in the interview room, sliding the papers across the table. Ernest's face went white. "No, this can't be right. Why would she?" "It gets worse," Martha said. "The policy has a double payout for accidental death. $4 million. Before Ernest could respond, Officer Mensah burst into the room. "Detective, they found a car. Burned. There's a body." The car sat in a ditch off the Tama Road, black and twisted from fire. The smell made Martha's stomach turn. "Inside," the fire chief said, pointing. "Female. Burned beyond recognition. But we found this." He held up a half-melted passport in an evidence bag. The name was clear. Angela Mensah. Ernest fell to his knees when they told him. No, check again." But the lab results came back 2 days later. The dental records matched. The DNA matched. The woman in the car was Angela Mensah. Or so everyone thought. They arrested Ernest at his office. The evidence looked bad. The life insurance policy. His calls to Angela the night she vanished. The fake email from her. And now, her burned body. "I didn't do this," he kept saying as they led him away in handcuffs. "That's not her in that car. I know it's not." But how could he be so sure? In his jail cell that night, Ernest remembered something. A tiny detail that had been bothering him. The dental records showed a filled cavity in the back right molar. But Angela had perfect teeth. She'd never had a cavity in her life. He told Martha right away. "Check her dentist," he begged. "Please. I know I sound crazy, but check." Martha did check, and what she found changed everything. Angela's real dental records showed no fillings, no cavities, nothing. The body in the car wasn't Angela. Someone had gone to a lot of trouble to make it look like Angela was dead. They had switched dental records, planted DNA, even burned a car with another woman's body. But why? Ernest had managed to smuggle his phone into the police cell. That night, as he sat in his cell, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Almost had you fooled, didn't we?" And somewhere in the city, someone was having a very expensive dinner, paid for with Angela's credit card. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The visiting room at Ensawan prison was cold and grey. Ernest sat waiting, his orange jumpsuit bright against the dull walls. When Sandra Addo walked in, she wasn't wearing her usual designer clothes. Instead, she looked tired, nervous. "I can't keep lying," she said, sitting down. "Not anymore." Ernest leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" Sandra's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. She showed him a photo taken 3 days ago. In it, a woman sat at a beach bar, wearing sunglasses and a hat. It was Angela. "She's alive," Sandra whispered. "She played us all, Ernest. She played us like fools." The room seemed to spin. Where is she?" "Zanzibar, living in a private villa with Nat." Sandra couldn't meet his eyes. They planned it all, every single thing. As Sandra talked, the horrible truth came out piece by piece. Angela and Nat had never really broken up. They'd been planning this for a year, the wedding to Ernest, the life insurance policy, the fake disappearance, the burned body of a homeless woman they'd found, the switched dental records. Everything. "But why?" Ernest's voice broke. "Why frame me?" "The insurance wouldn't pay if she just ran away," Sandra explained. "They needed you in prison for murder. Then they could collect the money. $4 million for a death that never happened." Sandra pulled out more photos. Angela and Nat at an airport. Bank transfers to offshore accounts. Emails planning everything. The real dental records they'd stolen. "I helped them," Sandra admitted, crying now. "I played my part, the worried friend, the witness. But I can't live with this anymore. That homeless woman. They killed her, Ernest, just to burn her body in that car." Ernest felt sick. All those times she said she loved me. "She's a good actor," Sandra said softly. "She fooled everyone." Just then, Detective Martha walked in. She'd been listening to everything. "Sandra," she said, "are you ready to make your official statement?" Sandra nodded. "Yes. And I have one more thing." She pulled out a USB drive. "Everything's here. All their plans, all their messages, everything." That night, in his cell, Ernest received one last email from Angela's account, which he checked on his phone. "You weren't supposed to find out so soon. I did love you in my way. But Nat and I, we had bigger dreams. Don't take it personally. It was just business." Ernest stared at the words until they blurred. 3 years of love, 3 years of lies. And somewhere on a beach in Zanzibar, his runaway bride was living her best life with another man, while an innocent woman's ashes sat in a police evidence room. But Angela had made one big mistake. She'd trusted Sandra to keep her secret. Now the truth was out, and Detective Martha was already booking her flight to Zanzibar. The game was over. Justice was coming. Detective Martha stepped off the plane in Zanzibar, the hot air hitting her face. Behind her, 2 Interpol agents and 4 local police officers followed. They had one target, Villa Bahari, a luxury hideaway on the island's northern tip. "They're still there," her local contact confirmed. "They think they're safe." Through her binoculars, Martha watched Angela and Nat having breakfast on their villa's deck. They looked happy, relaxed, like they hadn't just framed an innocent man and killed a homeless woman. "Now," Martha said into her radio. The police moved in from all sides. Nat saw them first and ran for the beach. He didn't get far before 2 officers tackled him into the sand. But Angela didn't run. She sat calmly, sipping her coffee as Martha approached. "Took you longer than I expected," Angela said with a small smile. Martha pulled out her handcuffs. "Angela Mensah, you're under arrest." "Just let me change first," Angela said, standing up. A girl should look her best for her close-up. At Accra Airport 3 days later, Ernest waited with Detective Martha. He was free now, all charges dropped. The police van pulled up. Angela stepped out, still somehow looking elegant in handcuffs. When she saw Ernest, something changed in her face. "Babe," she said softly, using his old pet name. "I still love you. If things had been different, maybe we could have been happy." Ernest just stared at her. Was any of it real? She smiled that mysterious smile. "What do you think?" 1 year later, Ernest sat in his office, reading the news. Bride who faked death, sentenced to 25 years. A letter arrived that morning, prison stamp on the envelope. Inside, just one line. "We all do crazy things for love. One day you'll understand." He almost threw it away, but something made him look closer. Hidden in the paper's fold was a tiny key. Ernest stared at the key in his hand. Numbers were carved into it. 23-9-17-KB. The same numbers from Sandra's phone all those months ago. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ready to learn what really happened? The safety deposit box is waiting. But remember, once you open it, there's no going back." He looked at the key again. Sometimes the end is just another beginning. And sometimes the biggest lies hide the biggest truths. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more captivating stories. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one.